morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Configuring and Using Blogs. So in today's session, we are going to go over configuring and using our blogs module along with some really interesting and exciting enhancements that we just released in our most recent version. So before we get started, we're going to go over just a few housekeeping details. To start, all of your phones and microphones are muted. So if you have any questions, you should be entering them into our chat window. Devin, one of our fabulous ClubExpress teammates, is hanging out in the chat to answer all of your questions. So don't feel that you have to leave those for the end of the webinar. We will have time to review some questions then, but you can ask them throughout today's session. A recording of this webinar is going to be available on our YouTube channel within a couple of days, and you can find a lot of other videos on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in more webinars, what we have coming up, and if you'd also like to register for them in advance, you can find them on our ClubExpress website. So go to clubexpress.com/calendar or click the calendar button in our menu on the top right-hand side. You don't have to register for the webinars in advance, but if you do, you can throw them on your calendar so you never miss them. And you have an opportunity to enter in questions that you might have for us that we can demonstrate live that are related to that topic. So if you see a webinar coming up and you have a couple of burning questions or things that you'd like to see demonstrated, maybe an interesting idea or a workaround that you'd like to see, feel free to enter those into our registration information. And as I mentioned before, all of our recorded webinars are on our YouTube channel, as well as our tutorials. So if you aren't already subscribed, you can click one of our webinars or tutorials from within the control panel or elsewhere on our site, then hit that subscribe button when you get to YouTube. Or you can search for clubexpress.com in the YouTube search bar, find us and hit subscribe. It's not just so we can get more followers, it's so you get notified every time we upload a new webinar or tutorial. And if you are a current ClubExpress customer, and particularly if you are enjoying ClubExpress, we would love to hear from you. So go to clubexpress.com/reviews and leave us a review. It helps other organizations like yourself figure out if ClubExpress is a good fit for them. So they're super important to us. We'd love to get feedback from you to know what we're doing right and what we can improve on. And of course, like I said, it helps other future ClubExpress customers. And as many of you have likely already seen in your inbox, we have another upcoming boot camp. So some of you may have attended our boot camp last year in December. That boot camp was one day. It had several sessions throughout the day. And many of you also purchased access to the boot camp after the fact just to have the recordings. So if you didn't make the last boot camp and you just bought the recordings and maybe you'd like to attend the live boot camp this year, or if you would just like a refresher, we have a brand new boot camp coming up in June. All of the information is located on our ClubExpress website. So if you go to clubexpress.com, take a look at that top banner. You can click that link for more information. You can also get more information right from within your own control panel. We are currently running a special. The boot camp is $199 per club. That means that every one of your administrators and coordinators that has access to the control panel would get access to the boot camp. It's 2 days filled with training opportunities. We are revisiting some topics with more detail and with more expertise from more of our ClubExpress teammates. So it won't just be my voice or Devin's voice that you're hearing. You'll hear from a lot of our customer success representatives. They are going to be giving you their personal favorite tips and tricks for various things like how to build your website template from scratch. We're hosting sessions on ad hoc reporting, sessions for aging in place villages. We're taking deep dives into both single and multiple activity events. And we're talking about a lot of the things that you care about, membership configuration, transaction information, anything that you'd need to know about ClubExpress is in the boot camp. So if you want more information, take a look at that information in your control panel or on our website. We also excuse me, as I mentioned, are running a special. So if you register before the 25th of May, you save 20%. So that's $159 per club. It includes access to all of the live sessions as well as the recordings after the fact. So if you have a bunch of board members or new volunteers who have just signed up with your organization, you're going to want to make sure that they have all of the training materials that they could possibly need. So let's go ahead and take a deep dive into blogs. So for those of you who don't know, blogs are basically just opinion pieces or updates. They're a little different from your news article feature. News articles would likely be a little more fact-based, whereas blogs are just opinion pieces written by your content creators or written by your administrators. They're written more often than your website updates. So you might be updating custom pages every so often, maybe once a month or once every couple of months, depending on how often some of that content needs to be updated. But blogs are things that you're going to write on a more regular basis. You might release them weekly or bi-weekly. You might be even releasing blog posts several times a week, depending on how active your membership base is, how active some of the things that you're doing are. So you could be writing blog posts for every single ride that you take as a cycling club. You could be writing blog posts just on the events that you're hosting as a community organization. Or you could be writing blog posts because something really interesting is happening in your industry if you're a professional association. We're going to go over assigning blog authors, configuring blog visibility, determining who can see what. Members can, of course, leave comments on your blogs. However, like forums, non-members are not able to interact in the exact same way that members would be able to with blogs. So if you'll recall, forums allow members to be able to post to forums, leave comments, reply to posts, but non-members can only view them if you allow them to. And it's the same with blogs. And we're also going to talk about a brand new feature that we have launched for what we call Model 2 clubs, clubs with subgroups, where you can share posts with lower level subgroups. So if you're an organization with subgroups, stick around for the tail end of the presentation. We're going to talk about how you can figure out whether you're a Model 1 club or a Model 2 club, and if you have access to this feature. It's included in your site. It is not an extra cost feature. We're going to explain how it works at the end of this presentation. So in our demonstration, we're going to set up blogs, write a blog post, use the blog widget, and push post to lower level subgroups. It's a really simple day for us today. So let's go ahead and start setting up our blog. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to switch my screens here. We're going to be visiting a handful of different demo sites today. So for our first stop, we are going to be working with our regular Northwest Balloon Club. Northwest Balloon Club does have chapters, but these functions are going to work the same way, whether you're a chaptered organization or if you're an organization that's just standalone. Even at the end, when we talk about content syndication, all of the information that I'm going to give you at the beginning of our session today will still apply. So let's talk about our blogs feature. Our blogs feature is located in the communications tab of your control panel. And of course, I'm logged in as Martin Smith, our favorite administrator for Northwest Balloon Club. If you have people who have been given coordinator access to blogs, that's also going to appear in the communications tab. If you have not activated your blogs feature, you can do that by clicking the configure icon at the top right-hand corner of the control panel, selecting the module, and changing the status from what is likely disabled or hidden to active. And then, of course, you'd go ahead and add that to your menu wherever you'd like your members to be able to navigate to blogs. In our case, we have created what we call a mega menu, and we've added blogs as a submenu option under our Learn features. So if I select blogs from the menu, I'm going to be taking a look at blogs from the perspective of other members, because remember that Martin Smith is just a regular member as well. So I have two blogs that I can see here. We can see a sort of modern pop out of all of the authors that are part of each blog. And I can select each blog to read it. I can also search through blogs If I select our search option here, I can search through the post title and the content of the blog. I can narrow my search down by blog, and I can search with tags as well. So I'll mention tags when we actually start writing blog posts, but just note that we do have tutorials and webinars on configuring and using tags across your website. So if you aren't familiar with tags, they're a great way to make sure that your members are going to be able to search through your blogs and any content on your website more effectively and faster. So let's go right back into our main blog screen here. And because I'm an administrator, I'm going to hover over this flyout menu on the right-hand side just to quickly go to the back end of our blogs feature. When I'm looking at the Blogs Manager page, I'm going to see a list of all of the blogs that I have. Now, these are blogs, not each individual post. When I go into each blog, then I can see each individual post within that blog. But first, let's take a look at our blogs. We can quickly see the title, the visibility, whether or not that blog is active, how many posts have been posted for that blog, how many authors we have, and then our trusty maintain column. If you're ever wondering what any of these icons means, because you're going to come across the maintain column in a lot of spaces across your website, just hover over this legend at the top right-hand corner, and you'll see a pop-out that explains what each icon is for. At the top of the Blogs Manager, I have the option to add a new blog, which we're going to do in just a moment, configure some blog options, edit our blog's policy, and run a handful of reports for our blogs module. The reports are going to include a list of posts for each of the blogs, inactive blog posts, and then just a list of every single post. Now, with our options, there are just a couple of options that you would be configuring across the board, and this is across all blogs, whether or not you want to allow non-members to leave comments and whether or not you want to allow those custom tags. So again, we have tutorials and webinars that talk about our tags feature. There are what we call master tags, which can be accessed through any module. Custom tags would be added when someone adds in a blog post and they just go ahead and add in their own tag to describe their post. When you're adding each individual blog, you're configuring the title and description, whether or not comments are going to be allowed. Now, you'll recall that in our options feature, we were determining whether or not comments would be turned on or off for non-members and whether or not those. So when we're creating a new blog, we're determining whether or not those comments are going to be allowed and the visibility. This is also the same exact screen that we would see if we were editing an existing blog. Now, let's take a look at an existing blog. We have our title description. We are only allowing member comments for All About Gear. And we also have the option to notify the author on every single comment. So if you have a particularly active blog author who wants to respond to comments or wants to be able to read them and engage with the readers, go ahead and notify the author on comments. And we're going to talk about how you add authors in just a second. Our visibility, whether or not the blog is going to be visible to the general public. And again, this is also determined by where you're placing it on your website's menu. Members only or closed. So the closed visibility status is what you would use if you wanted to remove a blog. Maybe the information is outdated. You wouldn't delete the post necessarily. You can just go ahead and close the blog. You do have the option, if we cancel out of this screen, to delete an entire blog. But if you wanted to just archive that, keep those posts in case you want to revisit them, go ahead and close that blog from visibility. Now, on the right-hand side, we were taking a look at our maintain column, which gives us the exact same interface if we were going to add a blog. Next up, we have our posts. We'll skip over that for just a minute. Let's take a look at our blog authors. So when I add a blog author, I'm just choosing from the members within my organization. We're taking a look at our very familiar member selector where we're searching through our database, either click search to view all of your members or start by searching their first or last name. I can go ahead and add an author. And I can manage all of my blog authors right from this screen as well. So I can remove a blog author at any time. Now, when I visit my posts, and again, this is from an administrative perspective. We're going to take a look at this from a blog author's perspective in just a moment. On the post manager, I can view all of the subscribers to my blog. When I'm viewing the subscribers, and we don't have any subscribers to this particular blog, we're looking at both members and non-members. Now, this is, of course, dependent on whether or not you allow non-members to access your blog. I can search through posts within the post manager. So if you have a lot of blog posts and you want to quickly find one, you can do so as an admin. Edit the blog properties is just going to give me that same pop-out that I was using to configure my blog. And finally, I have the ability to add a post. When I'm looking at all of my particular posts, I can see how many views each post has had when it was published. I can edit posts, view them on the website, share them to social media, or delete the post entirely. Now, when you're adding a post as an administrator, you might do it from the post manager. But as an administrator and a blog author, another quick way to add a blog post would be going to our member profile. And if I scroll down to the bottom right-hand corner of my member profile, under your website functions, I have an option for blogs. So if I click blogs, it's going to quickly take me to the post manager. And I can choose from any one of the blogs that I am listed as an author to. And this is going to be true not just for Martin Smith because he's an administrator, but Martin Smith also happens to be a robust blog writer, and he writes a lot of blogs for the Northwest Balloon Club. Any member that you designate a blog author can quickly access that post manager from within their own member profile. They can select the blog that they want to write a post for and go ahead and add a post immediately. Now, of course, another way that you have the ability to access blogs and write a post would be navigating to blogs from the menu, selecting the blog that you would like to write a post for. And if I am a blog author or an administrator, I can see at the top right-hand corner of the blog the option to manage my blog posts. So a lot of different ways that you can access the blogs feature. On the left-hand side, I can take a look at any of the blogs that I have written in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and select Manage Posts. It's going to take me right back to my post manager and add a post. Now, when we're adding a blog post, you're going to see our familiar, what I like to call our junior content editor. We don't have all of the features of our content editor, but you can get pretty far with creating a really nicely formatted blog post. So at the top, we'll include our title. Now, our title is going to display at the top of the blog post, of course, but the title is also going to display as the single line of text in the blog's widget. So if you are adding a blog's widget to either a custom page or to your home page, make sure that title stands out. Of course, we always want to put time into the titles that we add. So we are going to call this How to Write a Blog Post. I can choose an author. As an administrator, I can choose an author. As the blog author, if I'm signing in as just a regular member who is not an administrator, has just been given access to write a blog, they would see just their name when they're choosing that blog option. I am going to submit this on behalf of Jenny. Maybe Jenny's having a little bit of computer trouble and she's previously sent me her blog post. I can add those tags in. So we can choose from our master tags by clicking this drop-down arrow, or if we're allowing custom tags, we can enter in some custom tags. Let's see, I'm going to classify this with a mentoring tag, and let's see if we have any others. I'll keep that just with mentoring. Now, under post status, we have a handful of different statuses that you can add to this particular blog post that control when it's going to be seen. Draft, not published, means that the blog post is just going to remain in draft status. It's only going to be visible on the back end in the post manager by the blog author, by administrators, and by coordinators with access to the blogs feature. Ready to publish has a couple of different options. If you want the blog to go live right now, you can select Ready to Publish and leave the publish date and time completely blank. The blog will publish immediately. If instead you want to schedule that blog post for publishing, you would enter in your date and time, and your subscribers will get an email letting them know that there has been a blog post that is a blog post that is either completely ready to read if you have published it immediately, or let them know that a blog post will be ready to read if you've scheduled it for publication. And finally, you likely wouldn't use the offline status when you're writing a blog post initially, but if you want to take down one individual blog post, and again, as an alternative to deleting that post, if you essentially want to archive that post, you can take that post offline. I can say that this is ready to publish now. I can also enter in a summary. Learn how to write a great post. And I can finally enter in some text in my blog post. I'll go ahead and leave that blank for now, and I'll save these changes. Now, another thing, my apologies, I skipped it, is our share image. This is something that you're going to see in a lot of other places on your site: news articles, custom pages, events. Our share image is something that we launched with our last couple of version announcements. So this is the image that is going to be used when you share any of these items to social media. So previously, if you think back to maybe 6 months ago, whenever you shared something to social media, it used one standard image that is saved on your site. It was likely maybe a logo that you were using, or just a standard stock image that you felt really got the essence of your organization. Now you can have a different image for all of these items. So pick an image that speaks to each blog post, each custom page. Really call out the essence of what it is that you're publishing. And of course, this might be left to your content creator. You can select your share image, and that's completely different from the image that you might have embedded in the blog post. Now, all of the options that you see here for editing that particular post, they're going to be really similar to the options that you're seeing in our formatted text editor for custom pages, in our forum post editor. So I won't go into detail for any of those, but just know that they're there. We have a lot of tutorials that discuss how to use those. I'll go ahead and save my changes. And now I have an additional post that I've created. There we go. There's our blog post right at the top. No views whatsoever. We have our publish date that got published today. And if I go to our home page and I'm taking a look at what I've added to our page, I've added our recent blogs widget to our homepage right front and center. Now, I also have some text at the very top that says sign in to see more, because you'll remember that I've got one of my blogs that's available to everyone, but another blog is going to be available to members only. So it's an indicator to members who maybe forget to sign in so that they can see all of the content that you have to offer. It's also an indicator to non-members that there's something behind the curtain. There's content that they're missing out on because they're not a member of your organization. So I've added that to that top text there. And like I said, each one of the titles, that is going to be your link to that specific post. I can click that right from the homepage, and I can take a look at that blog post. Now, this one was written by Jenny. We can see our tags. We did not add any text. Now, I've got a big button for comments. If I take a look at any other blog that I have, I might not just have a big button. I might actually be able to see some comments. And let's see what we have here. Maybe let's try a different blog. There's our Up in the Air blog. Now, when we take a look at all of our blog posts, this particular blog post has an embedded video. This is just a YouTube video that I've added in. And if I click around, I can see different posts that I've added. I can go through these by date. Now, if you are a subscriber to the ClubExpress blog, this interface is really familiar to you. And if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, yes, we do have a blog. Our wonderful marketing guru, Hannah, writes many of our blog posts. We also have posts from members of our sales team and some other members of Club Express. Those posts are geared towards giving you just more information, more help, highlighting some new features that we've added. So again, if you aren't a subscriber to our blog, go ahead and find our blogs at clubexpress.com and subscribe today. And then again, you'll see that the interface is very much the same. Now, to add a comment, all I do is go ahead and click comments, add my comment, and I get a completely new interface. And this only appears, one, if you're allowing members or even non-members to leave comments, and two, if the person is signed in and they're an active member. I can change my name to a different handle or a different screen name that I prefer to comment from, and I can leave my comment. And Martin is volunteering himself. I'll go ahead and add my comment. And I can see my profile image. If I've added a profile photo through my member profile, I can see my name, the time, all of that information. And again, this is just interacting with this from either the perspective of a member, an admin, anyone who has the ability to leave comments on that post. Now let's go back to our homepage and talk a little bit more about this widget here. I am going to, again, because I'm an administrator, hover over this flyout menu on the right-hand side. When I'm looking at my homepage, it is going to take me to the page builder where I can actually edit my homepage. There we go. Now, when I'm looking at my versions manager, I know that I only want to take a look at my active version that I'm using. I'll go ahead and edit that option. If you aren't familiar with our page builder, we have many tutorials and webinars that go over how to use all of this. So what I'm really just going to talk about now is just the blogs widget, but take a look at our videos, our webinars and tutorials to talk about our page builder and learn how to create a really fun and modern homepage just like this. You can also register for our bootcamp to learn how to use the page builder to build custom pages from scratch, hosted by our wonderful Club Express team members who do that kind of thing every day. So under our blogs feed widget, I'm going to go ahead and select the widget so that I can see how this has been configured. In my title, normally it just says recent blogs. I've edited that to say sign in to see more. You can edit that to say absolutely anything. I can decide to call this our opinions. How far out, or excuse me, how far back you want to display posts. We are displaying all blog posts from the past year. If you have a particularly active blog, you might want to shorten that to 60 or 30 days. Our widths, because I'm using, I'll go ahead and move my menu out of the way here. Because I'm using a 33, 33, 33 row, I've just decided to keep the container width to the full width of that actual section. Our max height, this is something you'll see with a lot of widgets. Max height is telling the system, when do you want me to cut off how much we can scroll here? So I've set this to 400 pixels. I can easily change this to 450 if I would like to maybe get rid of this scroll bar with the number of blogs that I have. But of course, the more blogs you have, the more space this is going to take up, and you might end up seeing a scroll bar. Entirely up to you. Like our events widget, you also have the ability to include specific blogs. Same with news articles. I can say, I only want, one or two of the blogs that I write about to appear on our front page. I've just decided to include all blogs. And I can go ahead and apply my changes. Really, the only change that I made was I changed the height this time and I updated the title. Gets updated completely right away. And I can go ahead, scroll back to the top, quickly say save, make active, and exit. And now when I go to my homepage, I have those changes ready to go for me. So let's take a look at what we've talked about so far. We've talked about enabling the module. We have talked about adding our blog option to our menu. And we've taken a look at adding blogs and authors. We wrote a post. as an admin or a blog author. So remember that there are a lot of different spaces that you can go to in order to find your own blog posts. Remember to watch our tutorials on tags. We've also talked about post statuses. So let's say that you don't really have time to sit down on a regular basis and write a blog post, but maybe you can say, crack open a Diet Coke on a weekend and write 4 blog posts in a row. Schedule those out. Schedule them as ready to publish over the course of a month, and you're good to go for the entire month. We have a really great webinar that we hosted, Club Express for Content Creators, that goes through tactics that you should be using to update the content on your website a little more often, keep that content fresh, and why you want to keep that content fresh. So while you're on our YouTube channel, of course, subscribing, you should make sure to watch that video to get some more tips and how this and other modules on our site can be incorporated into perhaps a new content strategy that you have for 2022. Now, let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about that great content syndication feature. Now, I mentioned that I would explain the difference to you between a Model 1 and a Model 2 club and how you can figure out which one you might be. At Club Express, we have 2 ways that subgrouped organizations can have websites within our system. The first is Model 1, which means that there is one website for the entire organization and all of its chapters. With that, it's very similar to how our Northwest Balloon Club is set up. So with Northwest Balloon Club, if we go back into our control panel, on the back end, it looks really similar. On the back end, we have our control panel. We have all of the same options. But within our organization data and within all of our chapters, all of that is located on the same Northwest Balloon Club website. So when you have a Boston chapter or a Chicago chapter, they're not going to have their own website. Rather, they'll have a page on your website, that national level or that top level website, where your members are basically just interacting with the page that might have an event calendar, or it might have a list of committees or its own custom homepage. But really, it's just one website. Now, if you're a Model 2 organization, everyone has their own website. They're connected a little bit, but like I said, everyone has their own standalone website. Model 2 organizations would have that top level website, that national website. Each subgroup, whether it's a region or a chapter, is going to have its own website. And your subgroup members can log into both websites with the same login information. So a Boston member can sign into the national website. But remember, in Model 1 organizations, it's all the same website. So someone from Boston is logging into one website, they can see their events and they can maybe see some other events on the calendar. They can register for those events, sign up for volunteering opportunities, all on the same website. But with a Model 2 organization, there might be more than one website that they're accessing. Now, with that being said, we've added this content syndication feature for Model 2 organizations. Model 1 organizations don't really have that problem again because it's all one website, but our content syndication feature allows those multi-tiered organizations to share content with lower level subgroups. Why is that important? Well, it goes back to our content creation idea. You want your websites to have fresh content. You want your websites to get updated a little more often. Maybe at the local level, it's a little more difficult to get that content. Maybe they just don't have very much going on at certain time periods throughout the year. Or perhaps you just want your local organizations to know more about what you're doing at the national level. Or maybe you want to start sharing what some lower level subgroups are doing. Maybe you want to share with Chicago and other chapters what the Boston chapter is doing. There are a million reasons why this would be important to you, but the basics of it is we can do it now. So I'm going to go to a completely different demo site that we are using specifically to demonstrate how content syndication works. So I am on our Illinois Association of Finance website. Now, you might be familiar with our Chicago Association of Financial Planners. This is a local chapter of our Fake Financial Planning Association. And it corresponds with the higher chapter, which is the Illinois Association of Finance. Now, when I'm taking a look at the Illinois Association of Finance website, I'm looking at this from an administrator's perspective. Of course, we brought Martin Smith back. So I can take a look at Martin Smith's profile on the Illinois website. I can do everything that I want to do that's the same with any other website. I'll go ahead and click on my control panel. We'll log ourselves back in. I'm going into the communications tab, into the blogs module. All of this is going to be the exact same. The only difference is when I add a blog, I can see my same title, description, comments, whether or not I want to share with lower level subgroups. So this happens at the blog level, not the post level. So keep that in mind when you're setting up the different blogs that you want to host. And I'll go ahead and select that. And that's all you have to do every time you set up a blog, whether or not you want to share that with your lower level subgroups. From that point on, there is nothing that you have to do except write your blog posts. If we take a look at the state president's message, for example, and I edit that to see how that blog was set up, that's all I've done. State president's message. We're not allowing comments. We are sharing it with lower level subgroups, and we've made it public. Now, what that means is for that lower level subgroup, they enable blogs. They will automatically see this blog within their list of blogs. Let's take a look at that. On our Chicago Association of Financial Planners site, I'm going to go ahead and log in as Martin Smith. And if I select blogs from the menu, I can see the blogs that I've added to the Chicago Association of Financial Planners site. And I can also see that top tiered blog. So right underneath the name of the blog, we see where it's coming from. So I can see that it's coming from our state level site. Now, this is something that can be done with a bunch of other features on our site. So if you are interested in content syndication, be sure to attend some of our upcoming webinars. And we're hosting an entire session in our bootcamp to talk about all of the different ways that you can use content syndication, how to use it, and how it can be so beneficial for you. So this is one of those things I like to call turnkey operation. So when we think about content creation, it seems like it's just another one of those things that you have to worry about. You're already worried about hosting the events for your organization. You're already worried about member retention, member engagement, and now you have to worry about this additional thing of writing posts and news articles. That's why we're giving you some tools that you can use to make this just a little easier on yourself. So we've got our blog that's coming in from that Illinois level. If we go to our homepage and we scroll down just a little bit, let's see. Well, we don't have our blogs widget, but let's go ahead and add it. We'll edit that homepage. Again, this is going to be really similar to the editing features that we've done in a lot of our other webinars. I'm going to edit that active version of our homepage. And I can go ahead and add in a page row. We'll add this in right at the bottom. I can add any number of widgets that I'd like. I'll go ahead and select one of those cells. I'll drag over my recent blogs widget. We'll keep that set to, let's go ahead and set that to 365 days. We'll go for a max height of 300 pixels. That's usually a nice little size. And I'll go ahead and apply those changes. And so now we can see all of our recent blog posts, and we can see blog posts even from that top level organization that's sharing those blog posts with us. So it looks like we might end up ending a little bit early today. But of course, before we wrap anything up, Devin, how are we doing on questions? Well, finally.
Oh, Sam, hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being patient. Okay. Well, it's Wednesday. We're halfway through it. It's fine.
It's the hump day. All right.
Okay.
So as I was saying in a message, or as everyone else here heard me say, I had two major questions that I didn't actually know the answer to. I was hoping you would be able to answer them. So,
oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So our first question that kind of stumped me was for the email notifications when a blog is made. When do those go out? Do those go out when the blog is created, or do those go out when it becomes published and visible?
Great question. So that actually, there are kind of two answers to that. So when the blog post is published, and also if you post date a publication, so if you schedule it for publication in the future, there's an email that goes out immediately letting members know that there will be a publication available. Those emails are not in system emails. Those are just general emails. So if you're interested to see what they look like or what kind of text is in them, I would recommend maybe just setting up a test blog for yourself and subscribing to it so that you can see what those are going to look like. Well, so that covers our blogs module and all of the most recent updates that we have had with that feature. In next week's webinar, we are going to be talking about our news and articles feature. Devin is going to be our host. So there are going to be a lot of really interesting details. We've had some updates to news and articles as well. And we'll talk about content syndication for that module as well. So if you're interested in more information about content syndication, I highly recommend giving our bootcamp a shot. It's currently on sale, as I mentioned before, and I am not a salesperson. So Devin and I are responsible for creating the program. We really want to make sure that we give everyone the tools that they need to be successful when they're using ClubExpress software, when they're designing their website, and when they're updating it, and keeping their website up to date, whatever is going on in their organization. So make sure that you take a look at that. See if it's something that's right for you. You can always call our support team or email us to ask us questions if you have more questions about what's included in the bootcamp. And without any further ado, I will give everyone the gift of time today and give you 14 minutes back at the end of our webinar today. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Bye, everyone.